21 days. That's all it takes. Not 21 years. Not 21 months. Just 21 days to go from lost to locked in. From drifting to driven. You give me 3 weeks, and I'll give you back your life. Most people wait for perfect timing. They wait for motivation. They wait for the stars to align. But the truth is, waiting is the most dangerous drug of all. Because every day you wait is a vote for the life you don't want. And today, right now, I'm going to hand you the blueprint to take back your power in just 21 days. By the time we're done here, your mindset will never go back to what it was before. So let's begin. Day 1 isn't about goals. It's not about hustle. It's not about vision boards or to-do lists or morning routines. It's about a decision. A bold, final, emotional decision to draw the line. You don't get to move forward until you make peace with what you're done dragging behind you. You see, change doesn't begin when you want something new. It begins the moment you say, I will no longer live like this. Until that moment, you're playing games with yourself. And the dangerous part is, most people don't fall into mediocrity. They negotiate their way into it. One small compromise at a time. I'll start tomorrow. I'll give 50% just for today. I'll tolerate this just a little longer. But here's the truth. What you tolerate, you become. And what you don't confront, you will repeat. Take the story of Marcus, a man I met years ago. Mid-40s. Good job. 2 kids. Stable. But every time we spoke, his eyes said something his words wouldn't. He was dying quietly. One night, he finally cracked. He said, I feel like a ghost in my own life. Everything looks fine on paper, but I'm empty. I've been faking it for so long. I don't even know who I am anymore. I asked him one question. When was the last time you drew the line? He paused and said, never. He was still carrying the disappointments of his 20s, still replaying the mistakes of his 30s, still dragging around the identity of a man who stopped believing in himself. That night, Marcus did something simple, but life-altering. He went home, sat in his garage, took out a notebook, and he wrote one sentence. This version of me dies tonight. The next day, he showed up differently. Not perfectly, but powerfully. He started saying no, speaking up, taking care of his body, taking risks. He didn't fix his life in a day, but he made the one move that matters. He ended the chapter, and that's what you must do today. Draw the line. Say it out loud if you have to. I am no longer available for this version of me. No more playing small. No more blaming. No more excuses disguised as reasons. You don't need 365 days. You don't need clarity. You don't even need confidence. You just need conviction. The conviction to say, this ends now, and something new begins. So write it down. Say it loud. Burn the page if you must. But let there be no confusion. Today, you drew the line. And the moment you do, that's the moment your real life begins. Because if you don't kill your old story, it will kill your future. Choose. Now, day 2 isn't about doing more. It's about letting go. Success doesn't always require adding things. Sometimes, it demands subtraction. Because you cannot build a new life on top of old clutter. Clutter in your home. Clutter in your habits. Clutter in your mind. It weighs you down quietly, like an anchor dressed in silence. And the worst part? You get used to it. You normalize the chaos. You convince yourself it's just part of the noise of life. But success, real success, is allergic to noise. It needs space. I once knew a woman named Elaine. Mid-30s. Sharp. Ambitious. But stuck. She had plans. Big ones. But never enough energy to follow through. One day, I asked to see her workspace. Her home. Her schedule. It was like walking into a hurricane. Sticky notes. Unread books. Unpaid bills. Half-finished journals. Messages unanswered. Drawers that hadn't seen daylight in years. I didn't say a word. She looked at me, almost embarrassed, and said, I know. It's bad. I said, it's not bad. It's just heavy. And you're trying to run a marathon with a backpack full of bricks. So I gave her one task. Don't try to solve your life. Just clean your space. She spent the next 48 hours unplugged, sorting, clearing, deleting, dumping. The more she cleaned, the lighter she felt. And something strange happened. After clearing the space, she found the energy. Then came the focus. Then the creativity. Because what she really cleaned was her mind. And that's what you must do now. Clear the old to make space for the new. Clean the slate physically, mentally, digitally. Delete the apps you don't use. Cut the conversations that drain you. Unsubscribe from chaos. Throw away the things that no longer align with where you're going. Why? Because every item you keep sends a silent message. I might need the old me again. No, you won't. You don't need the clothes you don't wear, the habits that no longer serve, the files you'll never open, the guilt that only poisons progress. You need clarity. You need focus. You need room to breathe. And let me tell you something. You don't find inspiration in a mess. You find it in order. So today, clean with intention. Clean like your next breakthrough depends on it. Because it does. You see, when you remove what's no longer you, what is you rises to the surface. And suddenly, momentum has a runway. So go ahead. Wipe the board. Toss the junk. Burn the script. Because the future you're building doesn't have room for the past you're carrying. Clean the slate and start again. If you're waiting to be ready, you'll wait your whole life. That's the truth no one wants to say out loud. We live in a world addicted to preparation. Courses, certifications, planners, podcasts, more knowledge, more steps, more checking the boxes. But let me tell you something powerful. You don't need to feel ready to begin. You just need to begin to feel ready. That's how momentum is built, not in thought, but in motion. I remember a young man named Jordan, brilliant, talented, had a vision to start a business helping struggling students. Every time I saw him, I'd ask, "How's the business coming?" And every time, he'd say the same thing. "I'm almost ready." He was perfecting the website, reading another book, waiting for the right time to launch. But months turned into years. And all that brilliance, it stayed trapped in the prison of almost. One day I told him, "Jordan, you're mistaking preparation for progress. See, we've been sold this lie that readiness is a feeling, that one day you'll wake up full of courage, clarity, and confidence. No hesitation, just green lights and fireworks. That day never comes. You don't find readiness. You forge it through risk, through action, through doing things with your heart pounding and your hands shaking. Let me say it another way. The courage comes after the leap, not before. And here's the deeper truth. That fear you're feeling, that voice that says you're not ready, that's a signal. Not to stop, but to start. Because discomfort is the birthplace of growth. Doubt is the doorway to strength. Even a seed feels buried before it grows. Think of history's greatest breakthroughs. None of them began with perfect conditions. They began in chaos, in fear, in uncertainty. Steve Jobs didn't know the iPhone would work. Oprah didn't know if anyone would listen. Rosa Parks didn't know her stand would spark a movement. But they started, and starting changed everything. So I challenge you, stop waiting. Waiting to feel more qualified. Waiting for the perfect timing. Waiting for the stars to align and the fear to disappear. You have to move with the fear. Because on the other side of that trembling voice is your real voice. Take the step. Make the call. Post a video. Launch the offer. Walk into the room. And if your hands shake, let them, because this world doesn't need another almost. It needs people bold enough to act before they feel ready. Start with the wrong words. Start with a messy plan. Start with questions still unanswered. But start, and watch who you become in the process of becoming. If you don't command the morning, the day will command you. That's a law of life. Your morning is not just a routine. It's not just about productivity hacks or motivational playlists. It's a statement. Every morning, you're telling the world, and more importantly, yourself, what kind of person you've decided to be. See, most people wake up in distress, phone in hand, Notifications flashing, mind racing. Before their feet hit the floor, they're already behind. And then they wonder why the rest of the day feels like a chase they can't win. Let me tell you something straight. The tone of your morning becomes the rhythm of your life. I met a man once who transformed everything. Not by changing his career, not by moving cities, but by taking back his first hour. His name was Chris. Burned out, stuck in a loop. Every day felt like a repeat of the last. He said, "I'm drowning in noise." So I asked him, "When do you start listening to you?" He didn't have an answer because, like so many people, he started his day reacting instead of creating. The world had more influence on him than he had on himself. So I gave him one challenge. Simple. Master your first hour. No phone. No chaos. No external input. Start with silence. Then intention. Then movement. Speak your goals. Visualize your outcome. Fuel your mind before the world fills it with junk. He did. And within weeks, his energy changed. He stopped reacting to life and started steering it. Not because his schedule changed, but because he did. And that's what you must understand. The morning is your leverage point, your reset, your edge. You don't need to wake up at 4 a.m. or drink bulletproof coffee or do 90 minutes of yoga. You just need a moment of ownership, a sacred window where you prepare your mind, set your tone, and remind yourself who you are. Let me ask you something. When you wake up, do you remember your mission? Or do you just roll into distraction? Because you can't live a focused life if you start every day in fog. So I challenge you, tomorrow, wake up different. Don't touch your phone. Don't scroll. Don't check messages. Instead, check in with yourself. Ask what I stand for. What will I no longer allow? What's the one when I must claim today? And then move with deliberate force. Because when you master the morning, the world starts reacting to you. And let me tell you, there's no better feeling than knowing you're not surviving the day. You're leading it. If you got a frog to eat it first thing in the morning. And if you've got 2 frogs, eat the ugliest one first. Now, that's not just a quirky metaphor. It's one of the most effective productivity principles you'll ever live by. The frog is the task you least want to do, but know you must. It's the uncomfortable phone call, the workout you dread, the invoice you've been avoiding, the truth you've been scared to face. And here's the kicker. The longer you wait to face it, the bigger it gets in your mind. That's how procrastination works. It turns frogs into monsters. One of my students, Maria, had a gift. She was a brilliant marketer, could write circles around the best of them. But she had one flaw. She avoided hard things. She'd spend half her day organizing her files, tweaking her fonts, scrolling through Canva templates. When I asked her, "What's the one thing you're avoiding?" she sighed and said, "I know I need to start pitching clients, but I hate rejection." There it was, her frog. I said, "Maria, if you don't eat the frog eats you. It'll consume your time, your energy, and your confidence." So we made a deal. Before she touched a design or answered a message, she'd send one bold pitch every morning. No excuses. Within 2 weeks, she landed her first client. A month later, she had 3, not because she worked harder, but because she finally stopped avoiding the one thing that mattered. And that's what you have to face today. What are you avoiding? Because we all do it. We all invent distractions. We all polish the easy tasks just to feel busy. But productivity isn't about doing more. It's about doing what matters most. First, here's why it works. When you eat the frog early, everything else feels lighter, easier. You move through the day with a sense of power. And more than that, it builds identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who hesitates and start becoming someone who acts. You build mental toughness, not just to do what's easy, but what's essential. Let me ask you, what frog have you been staring at? You already know what it is. The thing that's quietly stealing your progress. So tomorrow, before the world starts pulling at your sleeves, go straight for it. Don't negotiate with your mind. Don't look for motivation. Just decide. Act before the fear grows legs. Because when you consistently face what you fear, the fear begins to fear you. That's how you win the day. And if you win the day enough times, you win your life. You can't grow roses in a toxic swamp, and you can't grow a powerful life in a weak environment. Let me say it plainly. Your environment is either pulling you forward or pulling you under. Most people underestimate this. They think mindset is enough, willpower, discipline. But let me ask you, what happens when you're surrounded by low standards? What happens when every conversation is about complaining, not creating? You start shrinking to survive instead of stretching to thrive. I once met a man named Alan. Smart, driven. He had big dreams, wanted to launch his own coaching business, travel the world, inspire people. But every time I checked in, he was stuck. He said, "I don't know why I can't move forward." So I asked him, "What's around you every day?" He paused, thought for a moment, then sighed. His friends were still partying every weekend. His apartment was cluttered. His social media feed was full of sarcasm and nonsense. His routines were reactive, and that's when it clicked for him. He didn't have a motivation problem. He had an environmental conflict. Your surroundings shape your standards more than your intentions ever will. Let me give it to you straight. If you hang around people who make excuses, guess what you'll start doing? If your space is filled with noise and distraction, guess how focused you'll feel? You don't need more motivation. You need a space that aligns with your future. The books on your shelf, the apps on your phone, the voices in your ear, the people at your table. It all matters. It either affirms your next level or anchors you to your last one. One of the fastest ways to upgrade your life is to upgrade your standards for what surrounds you. Clean your space. Organize your desk. Fill your walls with vision, not clutter. Follow people who stretch your thinking. Talk with people who make you rise, not relax. And most importantly, protect your energy like it's your empire, because it is. The truth is, you're not stuck because you're incapable. You're stuck because your environment keeps reinforcing who you used to be, not who you're trying to become. So today, change the setting. Because when you change the setting, the story starts to change. You're the architect of your atmosphere. Don't live like a tenant in your own life. Create spaces that remind you of your worth. Curate input that pulls you toward mastery. Cut the noise so you can hear your own voice again. Because when your environment reflects your vision, you'll stop resisting your greatness. And you'll start living it. You don't get what you want. You get what you are. Now pause and let that sink in, because that truth can either wake you up or weigh you down. Your identity is the thermostat of your life, not the thermometer. A thermometer reacts to conditions, but a thermostat sets them. That's what your identity does. It silently governs what you tolerate, what you chase, what you believe you deserve. So if you're not getting the results you want, don't just audit your goals. Audit your identity. Ask yourself, who have I become that's allowing these patterns? Who have I stopped becoming that I once believed in? I met a young man once, Eli, talented, intelligent, full of ambition, but he kept sabotaging every opportunity that came his way. He'd get hired, then fired. He'd start strong, then disappear. He wanted success, but couldn't hold on to it. Why? Because deep down, he was still identifying as the kid from the struggle, the one nobody believed in, the one who was supposed to fail. I looked him in the eyes and said, "Eli, it's not your skills that are broken. It's your story. You're still living under an identity that expired years ago." And that's when the transformation began. Not with a new resume, not with new goals, but with a new internal agreement. He rewrote the script. Every morning, he spoke what he was becoming, not what he had been. Within 6 months, he didn't just change his career, he changed his core. That's the power of identity. It will either anchor you to your old life or unlock your next one. But you can't change what you won't confront. So I'm asking you, honestly, what beliefs are you carrying that no longer belong to the person you're trying to become? I'm just not good with money. I always quit things. I'm not a confident person. I'm not built like them. Stop. Every time you say those words, you reinforce a cage that you are locking from the inside. And the most dangerous part? You start making decisions to protect the identity instead of breaking it. You want new results? You need a new foundation. Speak it, walk like it, move like it, not fake it, become it. Because identity isn't just something you're born with. It's something you build. And when your daily actions align with a new story, your results won't just change, they'll stick. So today, do an audit. Write down the labels you've accepted, the ones that shrink you. Then one by one, replace them. Because the moment you upgrade your identity is the moment life starts to rise to meet it. Success is not built on what you do occasionally. It's built on what you do consistently. We don't rise to the level of our goals. We fall to the level of our systems. And those systems are made up of your weekly repeats. You want to change your life? Then change the things you repeat every 7 days. See, most people treat their weeks like they're random, like they just happen. But winners, true achievers, they treat each week like a ritual, like a rhythm. They don't just live in time. They learn to command it. Take Mark, a client of mine. Bright guy, big vision. But every Monday felt like a reset from chaos. His goals were clear, but his weeks were messy, reactive. He kept saying, "I don't have enough time." I told him, "You don't have a time problem. You have a repeat problem." We looked at his patterns. No scheduled planning, inconsistent sleep, scattered focus. So we built his first set of weekly repeats, a planning session every Sunday night, workout routines on set days, a no-meeting focus block twice a week, and digital detoxes on Saturday mornings. Within 1 month, his output doubled, not because of more effort, because of better patterns. Here's the truth. The quality of your life is a mirror of your weekly routines. It's not the one big breakthrough that moves the needle. It's the small, strategic rhythms repeated without fail. But here's where most people go wrong. They design goals, but never design their habits. They say, "I want to get in shape," but don't schedule repeat time to move. They say, "I want to read more," but haven't carved out a repeat 30-minute slot. They say, "I want to start a business," but don't repeat time blocks to create. Hope is not a strategy. Repetition is. Think of your future like a garden. You don't need to plant new seeds every day. You need to water the same ones consistently. You need weekly touch points that hold your vision in place. Weekly reflections that keep you aligned. Weekly actions that stack toward your identity. If you're not repeating anything intentionally, then life will repeat chaos by default. So here's your action. Design 3 weekly rituals. 1 for your body, 1 for your mind, 1 for your mission. Lock them in. Protect them like oxygen. Because success is not about intensity. It's about consistency. You show me someone with powerful routines. I'll show you someone who never stays stuck for long. Design your week, and you'll design your destiny. Momentum is everything. It's the difference between getting started and staying started. It's the force that turns ordinary actions into extraordinary results. Momentum doesn't come from trying harder. It comes from starting small, then stacking the wins. But here's the thing, momentum isn't something you catch. It's something you build. It's like a snowball rolling down a hill. At first, it's just a small ball of ice moving slow, but with every rotation, it picks up more and more force. And by the time it's reached the bottom, it's an unstoppable avalanche. I want to ask you this. What small action could you start today that in 3 days will make your life feel completely different? Most people think they need massive action to create momentum. But in reality, it's the smallest, most consistent actions that build the strongest momentum chains. Take my friend Derek. When he wanted to lose 50 pounds, he didn't start with a marathon. He started with 1 push-up. That was it. Just 1. But every day, he did that 1 push-up, then 2 the next day, then 3. Before long, he was doing 50 push-ups a day, then 100. 6 months later, he'd lost the weight and built the body he dreamed of, not by aiming for huge leaps, but by making tiny, repeatable moves that stacked into an unbreakable chain. That's momentum at its finest. The key isn't to start big, it's to start and then keep going. And here's the secret. Momentum is a two-way street. It works for you or against you. Think about it. If you let yourself skip a workout, that's 1 link in your momentum chain broken. If you tell yourself just 1 more episode, On Netflix, instead of doing what you said you'd do, you've added another link to the chain, this time in the wrong direction. One choice doesn't seem like much, but break enough links, and suddenly you build a chain of excuses instead of results. But when you choose to build the right momentum, even the smallest wins become the foundation of a bigger, unstoppable force. Here's what I want you to understand. Momentum isn't magic. It's mathematics. It's the sum of your consistent actions, repeated daily, no matter how small they may seem. You're not just looking for the right action. You're looking for the right chain of actions. So, how do you build your momentum chain? It's simple. Start with one small task you know you can complete. It doesn't need to be the biggest task on your list, just the one that will give you a feeling of accomplishment. Then do it again the next day, and the next. The more links you add, the stronger the chain becomes. But momentum isn't a passive process. It's an active one. It's something you create, then protect. Protect it by not letting one slip-up turn into a pattern. Protect it by not allowing distractions to break the chain. Keep the momentum alive by doing something small every day that keeps you moving forward. You build momentum by building trust with yourself. And the more trust you build, the more you'll see that momentum flow into every area of your life. The simple truth is, momentum is a choice, and you can choose to build it right now with every decision you make. The question is, will you take the first step and keep the chain alive? There's a truth you can't escape. Success will require you to face at least one giant. And I'm not talking about the giants in the world. I'm talking about the giants inside you. The fear, the doubts, the limiting beliefs, the old stories you've told yourself for years. Every great achievement, every breakthrough, every transformation starts with facing one giant. It's a pivotal moment where you stop running, stop hiding, and say, "This ends now." I've seen it in the lives of countless people. Take Sarah, for example. She was a brilliant entrepreneur, but she couldn't grow her business past a certain point. She had the talent, the strategy, but she was terrified of failure. So much so that she'd sabotage her own progress, avoiding big opportunities because the thought of failing in front of others made her freeze. Her giant was a fear of judgment, the fear of being seen as a failure. And that fear controlled her life until one day it didn't. She made a decision. Today, I face this fear. I choose to walk straight into it. She took one bold step that terrified her, a live broadcast of her audience, sharing her story of failure and what she learned from it. It was raw, it was vulnerable, but it was also powerful. She didn't just face her fear, she exposed it. And by doing that, she tamed it. What happened next? That broadcast went viral. Her authenticity broke down walls she never could have imagined. Her business grew exponentially. But it wasn't just about the success, it was about the freedom that came from facing that giant. Now, here's the hard part. Facing your giant doesn't guarantee an easy path. It doesn't mean that the struggle will end, but it does mean that the struggle changes. When you face one giant, you stop seeing obstacles as impossible and start seeing them as challenges. You start believing that the giant can be beaten and that you are the one to do it. The most dangerous moment is the moment you think you can't. But here's the secret. Facing your giants isn't about winning the battle in one go. It's about gaining the confidence to stand tall and face them repeatedly. This is what sets champions apart. They don't run from their giants. They stand firm, they battle, and they learn. It's not about avoiding fear. It's about doing what needs to be done, even when the fear is there. So let me ask you, what is your giant? What is that one fear or belief that has held you back for too long? And what would happen if you looked it straight in the eye today? It's time to face it. No more delays, no more distractions. Because once you face that giant, once you show up to battle, everything changes. And the moment you realize that the giant was never as powerful as you thought, that's when you truly step into your greatness. It's time to stop running. Time to face the giant. Because once you do, you'll see it for what it really is. Nothing but an illusion standing in the way of your destiny. Success is not just about starting something. It's about finishing it. So many people start strong, new diets, new businesses, new goals. But somewhere along the way, they lose momentum. The dream starts to fade. And the loop they started, remains open. The promise they made to themselves goes unfulfilled. You see, closing the loop isn't just a good habit. It's a psychological necessity. There's something powerful that happens when you finish what you start. When you bring a project, a goal, or a task to completion, you don't just achieve something external. You change who you are internally. It's the feeling of victory, the satisfaction that comes from knowing you followed through, the psychological shift from a person who starts to a person who finishes. Let me tell you about Josh. Josh came to me about a year ago, struggling with consistency. He jumped from one idea to the next, starting this project, quitting that one, moving on to another before the first one had any chance of success. He was frustrated. He asked, "Why does it feel like I'm always starting but never finishing?" I told him, "You're addicted to the idea of success, not the process of success." Josh was addicted to the thrill of beginning. The spark of inspiration was enough to get him fired up, but when the daily grind set in, the excitement faded, and so did his commitment. So we set up a simple rule. For 21 days, Josh would only focus on finishing what he started. He had to close the loop on each of his tasks, no matter how small. No new projects. No distractions. Just finishing. The first couple of days were tough. But by the end of the 21 days, Josh had completed more than he had in the last year. And what surprised him most wasn't the finished projects. It was the confidence he built in himself. Each time he closed the loop, he saw that he could count on himself. He began trusting that he would follow through. Here's the truth. You don't build confidence by talking about what you're going to do. You build confidence by doing it, by closing the loop. Closing the loop doesn't just finish a task. It builds a cycle of success that fuels more success. It's a positive feedback loop. The more you finish, the more you trust yourself. The more you trust yourself, the more you finish. And here's the kicker. It's never about doing more. It's about doing what you say you'll do. It's about looking at the things you've started and making the choice to finish them. If you want to change your life, close the loops. The unfinished business in your life is where your potential lies dormant. Every project left incomplete, every promise to yourself that went unmet is a piece of power waiting for you to claim it. Today, close the loop. Pick one thing you started but never finished, and finish it. Close that loop, and watch as the momentum begins to build. Because the moment you close the loop, you change. You're no longer the person who starts and quits. You're the person who finishes. And that is the difference between dreams that come true and dreams that fade away. You've got the plan. But here's the truth. No one is coming to save you, but no one can stop you either. You are the hero and the enemy, the dreamer and the distraction. And in the next 21 days, you will either break through or break again. The difference? Not luck, not talent, just this one decision. Will you show up when it's hard? Because once you do that, once you prove to yourself that you're capable of 21 days of war with your old self, you'll never need motivation again. You'll have something better, self-respect. And that is the beginning of unstoppable.